Hello everyone, welcome to Double Clutch Auto Reviews. My name is Mark and today I'm very proud to show you my family's most recent vehicle purchase, my grandmother's brand new 2019 Audi A5 Cabriolet Premium Plus. In my opinion, this is one of the most beautiful cars that my family has ever owned, and it's also extremely technologically advanced. This will be my first two-part car review series due to all the details and features I have to go over to do a full in-depth review of this car. There is an absolute abundance of features that this car has, so forgive me if I miss a couple of things. However, I will do my absolute best to go over everything that I can in detail so you get the most information about this truly special car in this review. This 2019 Audi A5 has a 2.0-liter inline four-cylinder turbocharged engine making 248 horsepower and 273 pound-feet of torque. It's mated to a 7-speed S-tronic dual-clutch automatic transmission and Audi's Quattro all-wheel drive. The base model 2019 Audi A5 starts just over $44,000 US. The Cabriolet Premium Plus trim starts at $55,600 US, and this particular car with its options equipped was just over $60,000 sticker price. It hits 0 to 60 in about 5.6 seconds and has an electronically limited top speed of 130 miles an hour according to Audi's technical specification spreadsheet. However, with the way that this car feels accelerating and at highway speeds, I'm sure with just a few modifications and tuning to remove that top speed governor, I know it will happily go much faster than that. Its fuel economy is rated at 23 miles per gallon city, 34 miles per gallon highway, and 27 average overall. So as far as the exterior styling goes, I'm going to be honest with you. At first, I actually didn't prefer this particular model. I actually preferred Audi's A6 and A4 models, how the body lines were very straight across the whole side profile of the car. This one, as you can see, over the wheel arches, the lines slightly curve over the wheels. It just wasn't my particular taste at that time. However, the more I look at this car, the more it grew on me. Between the color, the wheels, and the lines of this car, the more and more I look at it, I'm very, very impressed with Audi's design. The headlights and taillights are extremely sharp looking. The chrome accents aren't overdone. I think Audi did an excellent job overall with this car. It is truly beautiful. And when we move on to the interior of this car later on in this video, you'll see that Audi's excellent attention to detail and design quality extends into the interior of this car as well. And this is what the car looks like with the top down. First, you have to hit the button in the center console. You have to hold it. That's a safety mechanism, as Audi explains. In case there's any emergency when you're closing it, you can stop it just by lifting off the button. It's not going to automatically keep going. The windows go down slightly. The top of the trunk opens, allowing the convertible top to be folded back into the trunk neatly, giving it a nice sleek look. There's no big bulky convertible top hanging behind the rear seat headrest. Audi did a nice job of tucking the convertible top away to give this car an elegant look with the top up or the top down. Moving on to the trunk, you'll notice that the cargo space is pretty limited, only about 11.6 cubic feet of cargo space. However, considering the size of the vehicle overall and the vehicle's intended purpose being a two-door convertible, it actually fits about what you would expect. I would say it's probably enough to fit a full load of groceries, but if you and a spouse were considering going on a long road trip, I'd probably reconsider taking this car and opting out for a vehicle with more cargo space. There's also a couple of cargo nets for storage of small items and a 12-volt outlet if you want to use that in the trunk. As far as the trunk goes, there's not much else interesting about it except for one extremely neat feature that I have to show you. Right on the side here, there's a button that allows you to test the fitment of the convertible top. You can push that button and see if the convertible top will have enough space to come down so you can put the top down while you're driving without impeding on the cargo. This is a wonderfully useful feature that I absolutely love. It allows you to utilize the most amount of cargo space you can and still be able to put the top down. All right, jumping into the interior, my first thought is always, wow, the interior quality is excellent. All the materials feel exquisitely nice. All the switches and buttons are tight and solid feeling. Just excellent build quality overall, in my opinion. There's nothing really that feels or looks cheap. I think Audi did an excellent job with the superb build quality. Really feels upscale. You certainly feel like you're sitting in a $60,000 car. You also notice there are tons of buttons and switches to control various different features that this car has. I'll start with the climate controls. This car has 3-zone climate controls for the driver, passenger, and the rear seats. You can either put it into sync or 3-zone. You use these metal switches that feel very nice and upscale, by the way, to control the AC on or off, the fan speed, up or down, and you also can control the driver and passenger vent direction. The dials feel really nice, they look sharp, the font is crisp and clean. On the side of the climate controls, you can use the heated and cooled seats. You push this button right here and then the dial turns to a number, 0, is neutral. You can turn the heated seats on by turning the dial to the right. You can have it set to 1, 2, or 3. And to put the cooled seats on, you can turn it all the way down to -1, 2, or 3. When setting the heated or vented seats, you just have to keep in mind that you have to turn the dial quickly or else it'll reset back to the temperature. So you have to push the button and then quickly turn the dial to change the heat setting or cool setting to what you want it to. To turn the seat climate control off, you just turn it back to 0. The button on top of that is the heated neck vent, which is an amazing feature. This is extremely useful for using the top down in the colder weather. You just push the button, the lights come on to show you the level of intensity, 1, 2, or 3. To shut the climate controls off, all you do is push this off button right here, and that shuts off all the climate controls. Of course, has a heated steering wheel as well. Just push the button right in the steering wheel. Very nice feature in the colder weather. I also must not forget to mention the seats in the new A5. The seat bolstering and comfort is actually one of the biggest reasons my grandmother bought this car for herself. She says that the seats in some of the other cars she was looking at before this one hurt her back, but these seats do not. They provide great lumbar support for a lower back, and the side bolstering is also quite comfortable and supportive. The seats hold you in place well when cornering, and the leather is high quality and soft to the touch, as well as being easy on the eyes in this nougat brown color. The front seats also have adjustable thigh bolstering, which might provide more comfort for someone with longer legs if they wish to use it. To adjust it, pull the lever directly below it to move it forward or back. Moving down below the climate controls, I'll show you this panel of buttons right here. The ones all the way to the left select your drive mode. You can either have it in comfort, auto, dynamic, or individual. Comfort is for lighter steering feel and less sporty driving. In auto mode, the car adjusts to your driving inputs in real time. And individual mode is a custom mode that you can set yourself. Right next to it is the auto start stop switch. Unfortunately, the car automatically sets to auto start stop. I personally don't like this feature, neither does my grandmother. You just have to remember when you jump in to push the button and turn that feature off. But if you like that feature, you can just leave it alone. The car has that set automatically. Next to that is the traction control on and off button. And then you skip over a blank switch and you have the rear camera button. And then unfortunately, there's 2 more blank switches in this panel. And then you finally have the screen on-off button at the end. Also to note, this screen in the center console right here doesn't fold down and into the dash, and it's also not a touchscreen. I've heard from some people, including my grandmother, that they actually don't like that this screen can't fold away and tuck itself in. Some people think it looks ugly and out of place right there. I personally don't really mind, but some people would prefer to be able to tuck it away and have a cleaner, sleeker look on the dashboard. It would give the interior a less cluttered look if you're not using the screen. But on the other hand, having a mechanism that folds the screen in and out is just one more thing that is bound to break over time. This Audi is also equipped with the Bang & Olufsen sound system installed from the factory, which is quite good. It sounds very crisp and clear. The radio has 8 channel presets and is also equipped with Sirius XM radio. And to adjust the audio settings, you go into sound in the vehicle menu and you can cycle through whether you want to increase the bass, treble, subwoofer, or the speed dependent volume control. When you push the menu button that brings you to the home screen of the infotainment system, a little picture of the A5 pops up. You can cycle through various different infotainment settings through here, including the vehicle drive mode, the radio, your telephone, navigation, and the Audi smartphone interface, as well as the vehicle settings. And you use this dial and these switches on the center console to navigate through the infotainment system. You use this dial to cycle left and right through the page. You can also use these silver buttons on the side of the dial to go to the next or previous page, or you can use these silver switches directly above the dial to have a shortcut right to the radio, media, navigation, or telephone. This car also has an electronic parking brake. Turn it on and off with this switch right here. Top-down switches are obviously to the right, as I said before. And to the right of the gear lever is the radio volume dial, which also serves as a track selector switch. You just hit it to the left or to the right to go to the previous or the next track. The gear selector works in an interesting, unorthodox manner. As you can see right now, the car is in park. To put it in drive, push your foot on the brake and push this little button on the left side of the gear lever and pull it down. That puts it in drive. And once you're in drive, you want to put it into manual mode. Just hit the gear lever to the right. That puts it in manual mode. You can shift it either using the gear selector down here, pushing it forward to shift up, and pulling it back to shift down, or you can use the paddle shifters on the steering wheel. To put it in reverse, same thing, except in the opposite direction. Just push it forward. That puts it into reverse. Now, the interesting part about the gear selector is that you can put it in park in essentially any gear or position. You have it in reverse, you just push this button right here that says P, and that puts it in park. You can also do that in neutral or drive. You can even do it when you have it in the manual shift mode. You push the P and the gear lever shifts over to the left and puts itself in park. There's also a 12-volt outlet and a USB port in the front of the center console. What's very funny is that 12-volt outlet plug is not even a cigarette lighter. You look at it and it's just a piece of plastic to stick in the hole when there's nothing else in there. I guess Audi doesn't want you smoking in their new cars. One thing I have to note though about the center console is the two front cup holders. Audi designed them very poorly. One of my few gripes with this interior. You can put a shorter drink in them with no problem, but if you have a taller drink like a water bottle, they don't really fit well and they hit against the silver switches for the climate controls. As you can see, my normal sized water bottle barely fits. I really dislike this feature and I wish they designed them more ergonomically. When I drive this car, I actually have to put my drink in the rear seat cup holders. Not a complete deal breaker, but definitely something that you should note and Audi should take into consideration when building the next model A5. Moving up to the headliner above the rear view mirror, you'll notice that it has the dome lights and the garage door openers, and certainly something to note about the dome lights. It's not just a button that you push in or out to turn on and off the dome lights. You actually just run your finger over the light to turn them on and off. Not a necessary feature, but you can't deny that is pretty cool how it does that. I think Audi might have implemented this for the more upscale and luxurious feel of it. Rather than pushing a button in and out that goes ka-clunk, ka-clunk, it's a silent, smooth motion. It's the smoother, finer touches that give the driver a more opulent driving experience. And that's one of those little touches that show that much more attention to detail from Audi. I also really like the way they designed the rear view mirror. I know it sounds silly, but the way they designed it without some big black bulky plastic around it and just made the mirror extend all the way to the edges, just make it look super sleek, super clean. Really like that design touch. Moving on to the center console, you'll note that it's rather small. It can only hold a few small items like your phone or a couple of pens or something like that. It has a USB and an aux jack in there. However, my favorite feature of the center console is you can pull it up a slight amount and you can actually adjust the height of the armrest. You pull it up a little bit at a time to adjust the height, and when you want to put it all the way back down, you pull it all the way up and push it all the way down. Moving on to the door, it's a pretty standard ergonomic setup. You have the memory seat buttons up here, you have two presets you can choose from, and the lock and unlock switch right here. Mirror controls are right below. This car also has automatic folding and heated outside mirrors. I have to say my favorite part about the door is the almighty master window switch. With just the touch of one switch, you can roll all the windows down or all the windows up. I think that every vehicle should have this feature. It's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't you install this simple switch? And similar to essentially every other switch in this car, the headlight switch looks sharp and it feels solid with a nice heavy click to it. And last but not least, I have to mention how Audi has designed their gauge cluster and infotainment system together. Audi calls it the virtual cockpit, and it truly feels as such. The gauge cluster and the center screen are vastly configurable to how you would like them set up. I could have the tachometer and the speedometer in the lower corners of the gauge cluster with the navigation screen behind it so you can view everything all at once. You can also have your radio set up on the center screen, so you can control the gauge cluster screen with the steering wheel controls, and you can control the center screen with the center console control right here. I'll demonstrate now how you can have it set up. It is extremely configurable, very, very high tech. I can have all the information that I need to know displayed to me on both of these screens without ever looking more than a few inches from the road. Between having the steering wheel controls and the center console controls, you can navigate all the systems in various different ways, whatever makes you more comfortable. I think Audi did an excellent job with designing this virtual cockpit experience. It's very ergonomic for the driver to be able to use all of these features. However, on the downside of all this technology and configurability with all these screens and buttons, it might be very overwhelming for someone who isn't used to all this technology. For a younger person like me, it might be pretty easy to figure out all the buttons and switches once you sit in the car and get used to it. But for an older person, they might be extremely overwhelmed and honestly might get frustrated with having to figure out all these buttons and switches. It's just something for you to note depending on your age and familiarity with technology. If you like simpler vehicles that aren't too complicated to figure out, this car might not be for you. This car has a vast amount of features and there is a lot to learn, as you can see. Before we take it out on the road, I have to show you two neat party tricks of this car. The first one is the puddle lights. I love these. This is a very neat idea. When you open the door, a light shines down on the ground, illuminating the area where you're going to step out. This is great if you're parking in an unfamiliar area at night, so you can see if you're about to step into something like a puddle or mud or something that you don't want to step on. And the second one, as you can see, when you jump in the car and close the door, there's a little lever that extends the seatbelt out for you, so it makes it easier for you to grab. And then when you put your seatbelt on, the extender retracts back into its place. So entering and exiting the rear seats isn't a terribly difficult process. Now with the seat all the way forward, climbing in isn't too difficult. And now that I'm back here, there's not a whole lot of legroom, but an average sized adult could fit back here pretty comfortably for a reasonable amount of time. I wouldn't want to spend a lot of time back here on a long road trip, but for a short ride, it's not too bad. Here you can see that there are climate control vents for rear seat passengers and a 12-volt outlet. The only problem is I can only adjust the temperature up and down. I cannot adjust the fan speed. I have to rely on the driver up front to do that for me. And now, with this button right here on the top of the seat, all I have to do is push this button forward and I can easily climb out. Alright guys, that's all I had time for today with the 2019 Audi A5 Cabriolet Premium Plus Part 1 video. As you can see, there is certainly a lot to cover, especially with the interior, and I'll pick up where I left off in Part 2. I hope you all enjoyed Part 1. Thank you so much for watching again. I'll catch you all in Part 2. Peace.